And good morning. Welcome to all. This is the Friday, September 2 edition of Things You Might Have Heard. A much more convenient, much more menial, much more actually organized version without, having all the information blowing up on us as we're preparing for the show. I'm Jake Clifton Payne. Today we have 10 stories for you to get you started for your Friday coffee talk, chat, whatever you're going to do going forward, talking to other people. These are some informational stories that you've probably missed out. Some of them are so way out left field. I'm sure you heard nothing about them, but these are some things you can bring up in your chats throughout the day and preparing yourself for the entire weekend, because a lot of these stories actually do last very well. They take a while for a good story to pop in and actually get enough traction for people to actually pick up to it. We're gonna get to those stories in just a minute. I want to remind you that our main website is course for this project. Things you might not have heard is at thisistheconversationproject.com, where you find more things about things you might have heard, the conversation project itself, and other sort of more and better media LLC type things going on, things we're trying to get into works as we're finding more time and more resources to make things happen, plus ways that you can help us find more time and resources as well. So check out the main website for more about what's going on, to see how we're doing things and how you can help us do more things. And right now, let's do the things we're here to do, and let's get some news stories out the way. Starting off with this first one. Bank of America tests no down payment mortgage for minority communities. These are Latinos and Blacks. Now, this is something that may not seem like it's all that new, because a whole lot of people got very low mortgages for very targeted communities, but those are mortgages from back, we remember our housing bubble from a decade ago, or mortgages that were pretty much worthless to the point, sold off to other banks, and then when all of a sudden the market crashed, people were left in foreclosure with deals that they couldn't pay off to. These are basically the big time loans that are given to the big time people with money, because oddly enough, people with money can get loans for essentially no interest, no money, because they assume they have the money. Now, what's going along with this is a whole lot of financial counseling, a whole lot of basically training, coaching, and hand holding to make sure that people understand that this no down, no money loan that we're giving for this house is one thing, but you also have a car payment or student loan debt or a bunch of kids who are going to other places. That counts as well. So maybe just because you don't have an interest rate on this a loan that you have for your house that balloons it to this massive amount of money, maybe you still can't afford it because of other things going on. You have to lessen out you have to balance things out, lessen out some other debt going forward. A lot of counseling going into this loan program. We'll see how it works out. This is by 1,000% a grand thing forward. More people owning homes is a great thing, especially as renting homes is becoming near impossible as well. But we just got to make sure that people understand what they're getting into. Trump raid judge to unseal details inventory of what FBI seized at Mar-a-Lago, delay special master ruling. Let's go with special master ruling first. The special master ruling did not happen basically 2 days ago as we posted this story, but it's going to happen, I think, today, if not by Tuesday, maybe over the weekend. They actually do these federal judge things on Saturday and Sunday in some cases for some specific things. So we may have a special master by the beginning of next week, coming back from Labor Day. However, it got delayed because of the ruling of what to do about the inventory. Now, the judge is saying that they're going to unseal the detailed inventory. That doesn't mean we'll know all the nuclear secrets that are in there, but there'll be a bigger counting of what exactly they went through. Now, we've already seen some of the pictures. You see the kind of the little class photo stuff with just layout of things that are in the boxes, if you will. But we're going to see more of these things, more detailed listings of what was in there coming forward, like how many are listed as secret, how many listed as top secret, how many are SCI, going things like that. Trump, of course, saying that holding his documents is a lot like having overdue library books, except we all remember from having to go to the library, you can't actually check out the dictionaries and the encyclopedias. They actually can't leave the building. You can't check out the reference books, only the other books. So when you take out the books you can't take out, that's not overdue library books, that's stealing. That's what I said. Poland to seek $1.3 trillion in World War II reparations from Germany. Try to be funny and screwed that one up. So, reparations. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them not coming from here, from a version of a United States version where former slaves, descendants of slaves are looking for reparations from the time that their forefathers were owned by United States people. This is reparations from Poland, a European nation looking to get a whole lot of money from Germany. Does Germany have $1.3 trillion for reparations? Should Germany pay $1.3 trillion of reparations? Those are big, important questions to ask. But the question that's going through is, will people look at these reparations, these talks, the same way they look at here? Is it because they're Europeans? Is it because it's dealing with World War II and Holocaust stuff? Or is it just one of those burdens that we as Americans have to bear because we are special in what we're doing with? That's where the real conversation is. Is this actual a valid conversation on reparations, as opposed to when things are brought up here, it's immediately shut down and try to be taken out as a non-valid conversation for the reparations, as in, I didn't own any slaves, so just because my grandparents did, why do I have to pay for what they did? It's the same sort of conversation on student loan debt. I paid off my loans. Why should these people have their loans paid off? Here in Poland, for reparations, these Germans did not do anything to those Polacks. So why should these Germans pay this much money to help out the Poland people who were descendants of the folks who actually suffered? It's a roundabout question. It's a good question. It's a valid question. And it usually comes down to, is it really a good idea? And how much should they get? What's the actual cost value to make things better, get things back to normal, especially since the people who were wronged and the people who did the wronging are mostly gone and pretty much out of any sort of power. We shall discuss if you deem this some to keep discussing. Next story: rock band Arcade Fire pulled from radio after allegations surfaced against singer. This is the lead singer for Arcade Fire. He has been alleged. He has been pointed out by 4 different people of some sort of allegations of sexual misconduct, essentially. And he's been pulled from a few radio stations. I'll say a handful of stations in Canada. This is a story that was pretty much buried under a bunch of snow, for lack of a better term, because it's Canada. And so this one's going to take a while to kind of keep up with. I don't think Entertainment Tonight is touching this one because Arcade Fire is not, Prince. But this is something that, as it grows up, get more details in it, may turn into a bigger thing for all of us to deal with. As we say, we are your tertiary news source. Things that are kind of out of the way here, this one out of the way. Let's move on to SNL. And their exodus continues as Alex Moffat, Melissa Villaseñor, and Aristotle Athari are leaving ahead of season 48, which I don't know they actually have listed an actual premiere date for the next season. Kenan Thompson was kind of captured talking about maybe its time is up, and maybe he's taken out of context of that. But Kenan Thompson's basically thinking it may not make it, this show, Saturday Night Live, may not make it to season 50 because it might be around time to kind of clear the air of this show here. We're seeing a lot of people who aren't necessarily the star makers, aren't necessarily the people that we think are going to be breakout stars in film and TV coming out, but we're seeing a big exodus of people leaving the series, leaving Saturday Night Live as the next season begins. Pretty late in the announcements to find new players, if you will, although people will step up to the plate, trust me. We'll see how long Saturday Night Live will endure and if this season will be any sort of pivotal turn because of so many people who are leaving and so many people who are more or less B players, not so much the A players. These aren't the Melissa McCarthy's. These aren't the Eddie Murphys. These aren't the people that are destined for stardom. These are people who are just kind of in the range. And Melissa McCarthy wasn't actually in Saturday Night Live, so I don't know where I got that from. She was a guest player. Sorry about that. Russell Wilson, Broncos agree to terms of 5-year, $245 million contract extension. Russell Williams, that dude. Russell Wilson is going to play for now. I think his original deal was just 2, maybe 3 years. So that adds 5 years to his Broncos deal. He's played nowhere but Seattle since being drafted into the NFL. The next 7 years are owned by the Broncos, unless there's a trade. Good luck for Mr. Wilson. We'll see how his life from going from the West Coast to the Rockies will go. Big old trucks notwithstanding. Let's go to Madonna, who says that her marriage to Guy Ritchie and, should have fixed that, Sean Penn weren't the best idea. Meanwhile, breaking news, water is wet, grass is green, and you will have to pay your taxes sometime. Madonna did an interview and said basically her previous marriages to those 2 guys, specifically Guy and Sean, weren't exactly the best ideas for her career, for her life, for what was going on at the time. And because she's Madonna, she can say that. Check out the link in the description and go deeper into the story. And don't let me put words in Madge's mouth. Let her say the words her own self, going for that one. I think it's more of a professional, specifically one for the Sean Penn one specifically, because there was a lot of issues with Sean Penn being who he was. And then when they split, they turned into really two different people. And then Guy Ritchie was essentially a relationship that should not have went to the marriage stage. But rich people get married all the time. That's what they do. They got the rich thing going on. A study shows that Philadelphia is the rudest city in America, has the rudest locals, which would make sense. The link that we have here is to a local Philadelphia TV station. So they're looking at it from the Philadelphia version and basically having a laugh at it. Check out the survey, see if it says your city is kind of rude. Philadelphia, of course, who booed Santa Claus? They're never going to live that down. And in fact, I think the Philly people are kind of happy about that. Are okay with this because they're rude. The Warner Brothers Discovery cancels DC FanDome for 2022. That means the big old fan fest. It was teased. It was kind of made fun of in the Kamala Khan series on Disney Plus for Miss Marvel. That there was basically a Avengers Con, all things Avengers were there. And, they have, of course, Comic-Con, things like that. Warner Brothers, the former Warner Brothers folks, had a DC FanDome, which was a big old thing that was a celebration of DC comics and comic figures. That's been canned for this year. We'll see what's going on going forward. Warner Brothers Discovery is saying they're trying to slash prices because they're out of money. That's the big thing they're doing. That's all these things are doing are basically money led, not so much ideal led to a point, but they're basically trying to make things profitable. Not having this in the books may help because it's a less of an expenditure, but we're going to see what it does for the welfare of the game. Finally, Alfredo sauce spill closes highway in Memphis after semi-truck crash. Hours were spent cleaning up Alfredo sauce going eastbound, I believe, on the highway where a truck tried to went too fast and hit a barrier and spilled all the Alfredo sauce. And then one lane on the westbound side it had to deal with because some of the sauce leaked to the other side. So that was a sticky thing as well. Now, sidebar on this one, a study came out, another weird, crazy study on safer drivers in the region. I believe it's region because it said nation. It was kind of weird at that. Memphis was one of those places. Little Rock, Arkansas, also one of those places, which made us wonder how big this region was because Little Rock does not have safe drivers and Memphis has semi-trucks spilling Alfredo sauce all over the place. Second sidebar, when I did traffic reporting, there was always some sort of weird thing. Every couple of months, something weird would bust out, break open, and have spill on the freeway that would keep things down for hours. There were frozen turkeys one year. There were chicken strips. There were a lot of chicken strips, oddly enough. There was pizza sauce, which was an interesting thing. We had a money situation, not a lot going around, but it had a situation where a armored truck did knock over and bust open. No real money got away, but they had to get it out of the way. And the biggest one was cows. A big trailer carrying cows had a big incident. And there were, yes, dead cows that had to be cleaned off the road. Not sure if that was interesting. It was pretty gross, but it's kind of an interesting thing. I guess I had to feel me get it off my chest. These things happen. And they usually are laughed at. They're not a laughing matter with the cost of getting things cleaned up and the cost of delays of people being stuck in these things. So please be careful in your traffic driving. I'll do a little of my old traffic and weather stuff again. Make sure your wipers and lights on when you're driving. Make sure you give some space between you and the guy in front of you and watch out for the guy to the sides of you as well. And please be patient. The time you will save in being a little bit late because you're being patient could save the time you're dealing with serious injury and life. Just think about it that way. Teaser story for the weekend. Monday, we may talk about this one. Meta plans changes for Facebook and Instagram could be the final straw in their coffins. Now, what this story from Tech Radar is referencing to is Meta, i.e. Facebook and Instagram, are trying to fight back some of the changes that happen with the Apple stuff, changes that happen with the iPhone for extra privacy stuff. That means a lot of the ad revenue that they're getting from people that sneak sort of things past you, they can't sneak those things past you anymore. So there's less of that revenue. What does that mean? the companies are changing the way some of the platforms work so that they can be more ad friendly. Sorry, I had to do a quick hydration break. So they can be more ad friendly for people on the platform so they can make up that ad dollars going forward. Facebook and Instagram and those social media platforms that take in money for ads and have sponsored things are still doing what they're doing and still leading the way, if you will, for people for engagement and people finding new eyeballs. That's why we put this thing on Facebook, because it's there. However, it is a bit more frustrating as the things that you really want to see get overcome by the things that people are paying for you to see. That's an issue in all sort of broadcasting, all sort of messaging. And Facebook and Instagram are having that issue on a grand scale because the things that could used to sneak past you can't sneak past you as easy anymore. If this is one you want to talk about, just let me know by engaging with the story, and we'll see what happens come Monday if it's in the top 30 of the 90 stories we'll have for the weekend. Now, let's talk about our sponsor for the day, which is the Chess Store Incorporated. Stop by thisisaconversationproject.com/the Chess Store. The Chess Store did not get the love that it deserved, appreciated, because we did not promote it properly on National Chess Day, which we had the glitch yesterday. So that's was National Chess Day. I thought I'd actually put that day inside that slide in my pre-work. I only put the birthdays, so we did not have that there to go into. But in light of yesterday being National Chess Day, don't miss out on your chance to get good chess stuff today. Metal sets, wood sets, theme sets, antique reproductions, and plastic and travel things that are beautiful, not just chitsy. Check out the Chess Store and get your chess game on at thisisaconversationproject.com/the Chess Store. Sorry for the mistake and mishaps we had yesterday. But, this thing, we're funded by, viewers like you, and mostly, what's left of my paycheck after, I take care of my ladies. So it is what it is. This is a labor, as we say, a labor of love because I love doing it, but a labor that has some inflection of cost. That is the case. So thank you so much for being a part of what we do, how we keep things going. And we love you to be a part of it in other ways. Once I switch the slide, we'll let you know those ways. Starting off with visiting our main website, thisisaconversationproject.com. to see what we have going on, see what's going on behind the scenes, see what we're trying to plan and doing. And of course, we want you to see if there's a sponsor that you might like that can help us out, or if you want to partner up with us directly for something more substantial. Keep things going, if you will. On Facebook and Twitter, our feeds are there. That's where we post our news stories every 50 minutes or so. So every 50 minutes, you see a story that pops up there when you're checking your feeds, your Facebook and Twitter, and you make sure that we're hit there so you can see us coming in there. Look at the stories, like them, love them, hate them, share. The more engagement the story gets, the higher score it gets, the better chance we have of talking about it the next day or the next weekend. So check it out, our feeds. See what we got going on TikTok as well, The Conversation Project at home there, and YouTube and podcast version. Go to thisisconversationproject.com, click on the links for YouTube and podcast or /YouTube/podcast. YouTube is this thing right here you're seeing. Only if you're seeing on Facebook, it's linked to our YouTube page. So make sure you subscribe and hit notifications. You'll get that notifications when we go live every single weekday morning. And the podcast is a replay, redo, rechop of this thing here. So if you like what you're hearing, but don't so much like what you're seeing, because it's my face, get the podcast. It'll be live about 5-10 minutes after this recording because we have to upload it in the internets and things like that. So things for today, to get into your today things, include birthdays for Keanu Reeves, another one of the people who qualifies as one of the nicest guys in the world. Keanu Reeves turning 58 years old today, and that may have you scratching your head towards your mortality today. Salma Hayek, who may be immortal, her birth certificate says she's 56 years old today. We have that as well. And Cat Williams, the comedian, is 49 on this date today, which is amazing because looking at him makes me think that he's like years, decades older than I am, but he's only a year. So I guess that means I am getting older than I think, and maybe I do look as bad as people say I do. But since I'm normally not looking at my reflection, I can say it's not a thing. We're going to go historic today and go with Victory over Japan Day. VJ Day is today, September the 2nd. It's actually VJ Day or VJ days. It was celebrated between August 15th and September the 2nd. So there was a wide swath of time when I went to do the research to double up on what today actually was when it popped up as VJ Day. What this is the day we had the surrender by the Japanese in World War II, going back to World War II. They officially ended their conflict with the Americans here on Victory over Japan Day, which is different from, of course, Victory over Europe Day, which is when we have the ending of the war, the conflict in the European European theater. Now, the oddest thing about this was Japan, as small as a nation as it was able to do so much damage and be such a evil force in the world. And I use that word specifically, an evil force on the world in this war by their tactics, by their tenacity, by just being good soldiers, being good at what they do, and the fact that everybody bought into it. Unfortunately, they bought into the side of the dark side, which can be a problem. But this is a day we're going to celebrate. I hope you celebrate. Take some time to do some research, see what's going on, and understand that how we got here came from what we did there. Things we're seeing right now in our current history, and its history is moments after it happens, can be traced back to things we did back then or things other people did, especially to us in the back thens. Know your history. We are destined to repeat it, but at least we'll see it coming, and then we can slow it down a bit. One last big old fact to go out the door with. A study from Australia found that turning off the television, picking up a crossword puzzle, and eating more fish could be the key to better memory. The study also found people who read fiction had better memories than those who don't, while heavy drinkers found it more difficult to recall names. Although that last part should be kind of obvious. These are more of the simple things that we should be doing to be better in our lives, especially as we do get older and grayer and a bit more or less memory. Not a real word, but I said that. Watching less TV is less of the background stimulation on your brain. Doing crossword puzzles means you're doing more engaging thoughts with your brain. Fish, the oils in fish are supposedly great for memory. And of course, reading itself. Reading is an exercise in keeping up. So if you don't want to read fiction, read the newspaper, read whatever you're doing. Try to read something that is not, fiction like, alternative facts fiction, but try to get things reading over there. And, maybe stop a pop after 2 or 3, 4 or 5. You're a little too old for that. I'm just saying. No judgment. Yeah, all judgment. You're a little too old for that. This has been Things You Might Have Heard for Friday, September 2nd, 2022. For the week it has been. We got 5 in, even though one of them was a lot iffy. Thank you so much for being a part of the program, being a part of the show, being a part of the family. Give us a comment in whatever venue you're watching this thing in, and we'll shout you out as we can. Shout outs to mother-in-law Sharon and wife Christina with a K. Make sure that you are signed in for the newsletter. Go to the website to see how to do that. And so in case you missed this video version or want to get quick links directly into your inbox, you have links to all the stories that should be in your inbox about 3 minutes ago. So check out that as well. Look for the podcast to come out in about 10 minutes as I record this, or as you're listening to the podcast when you hear this. And just be strong. Stay hydrated. Stay limber. Stay on task. We need you to make it through the weekend because Monday, it's Labor Day. We'll probably knock this thing off on Labor Day because I got to cook extra hours. But Monday, take the day off. If you have the day off, find some time to relax, celebrate the labors you did. But be back with us for our next edition of Things You Might Have Heard. Brought to you by More Better Media LLC. Actually brought to you by the Conversation Project. Brought to you by More Better Media LLC. But, a lot of words, a lot of week. Let's do it again next week.